What is our social agreement when it comes to communication? Don't ignore someone in front of you and be socially fluent in the crowd. Yes, but what about when it comes to phones? If I call you multiple times, maybe pick up the phone because it might be an emergency. And if you don't have the phone on you, call me back as quick as possible and I'll still be annoyed because who doesn't have their phone on them in today's world? What about if I only call you once? Are you allowed to ignore that? It's kind of a bum kind of move and all the rest, but are you allowed to ignore that? What about messages through social media or texts? Text back in your own free time, social media. Don't open it until you're ready to reply to the message. Also, how long can I leave it? And does my app usage vary between apps? Am I on some apps daily and some apps less frequently? What happens if my app preferences don't match that of my friends? What does it say about our friendship if we start to drift apart simply because we use different apps? And what happens if I use all of the apps, but I recognize that each one has a culture, each one has an ethos. Some are more personal and intimate, and some are more professional and academic, perhaps. And then, which version of me are you becoming friends with if we only speak through one of these apps? Wasn't it so in a land before time that if no one was home, then nobody was home and I couldn't reach you? And I didn't get annoyed about that. I didn't get frustrated about that. And if I wanted you to call me back, if I wanted, like, whenever you're free, I had to request it. Hey, would you mind calling me back? And even that hasn't been around all the time. Phones weren't always around. Now, I'm not saying to get rid of telecommunication. Telecommunication has been the biggest advance in coordination since the printing press. But the developments in AI will supercharge our coordination once again, and we have never had the should we conversation. What should we do? What is our social contract? You see, as phones came out, religion was already on the decline. And because religion is the tool for helping us trust people that we do not know, it is literally the tool that got us past the Dunbar number, 150 people who we can keep track of consciously. There's a reason all the religions came out 500 BC, because that was roughly the time when we got into these larger communities and we had to be able to trust each other, and religion was the tool for that. But seeing as religion was already on the decline and the phone allowed you to stay in contact with your social network, your support network, the social contract of how we act in front of each other, how we respond to our neighbours and our local community became a little bit less important. And all we cared about was like physical safety. As long as we have physical safety in the immediate and then we have our support network, then it's okay. But what happens when you can't grow your support network, those emotional ties, those really genuine interactions of authentic self? If you cannot grow that because the social network is fraying, is outdated. Because what happens if my immediate, taken for granted sort of network of family, of community, just isn't as strong because we're not putting as much effort into it? And then the only people I can try and connect with are people within niches, within these small corners of the internet where I get a version of them. I get like a professional version of them, or I get the version of them that's interested in diet or fitness or entertainment or comedy or philosophy or politics or finance. Whatever it is, you're getting that version of that person, and that's not as strong of a support network. So those ties are fraying. And what happens, unfortunately, if your social contract, your immediate, what's around you geographically, your neighbours, your community, is starting to become less safe because people's support networks, other people's support networks, aren't just fraying, they've already collapsed. And they don't have the support. And now they're needing these social supports of government, of handouts, of some sort of community building, and half of it's not there. You see, there are 3 levels to what shifts society. You have technological advances and changes, you have social advances and changes, and you have the superstructure and advances and changes there. Give it a moment. Superstructure is what was traditionally took like the main force. This was the ethos, the shared ethics, the culture that you were nested in, that your family and friends and community would hold you accountable to. You should do this, your duties, your responsibilities, and it was this unspoken or maybe spoken and pressurized sort of code that we'd live by. Now in today's world, it's tech. We are living in a moment of history called the carbon pulse, where we've learned how to take out an absolute ton of energy out of the earth through these flammable fossils that we like to burn so much. And we've just had that extracted out. We get this big blip in energy, like surplus energy around us, and the tech is just finding fun and playful ways of doing this. We are turning megaliters of oil into microliters of dopamine. And then the social structure, which is what we code into law, which is what we code into policies, is just along for the ride, but it's really starting to show its cracks. And now when we do confront that superstructure, where religion and all of the shoulds and duties live, tech is trying to free us from that. Technology is trying to give us absolute freedom, because in a world where we get to dance and play, technology is terrified that we would have to have a dance partner that has a say in how we dance. And yet, we still feel the shoulds of this world. We still want to be better. We still want to shed our skin and aim ourselves towards the good. We celebrate when people overcome their weaknesses, and we mourn when potential is lost. The only question is, do we dare to have this conversation out loud? What will it take for us to have this conversation out loud? There is so much potential being lost in this technocracy. There are so many virtues being ignored. That's it for today. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you're looking forward to the week to come. I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.